Backstories Podcast.
Welcome to another deep dive with us. This time, we're taking a look at Alicia Keys.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to be using her Wikipedia page to guide us.
Right.
Now, most of you probably already know her work and her music.
Definitely, yeah.
But today we're going to go a bit deeper, and I'm really curious to see what we find. You know, when you think about it, there are artists who are popular with the mainstream,
Right.
but maybe not so much with critics. Then there are some who have that critical respect, but aren't as popular. Alicia Keys really seems to have managed
That's
to capture both. What do you think is the key to that? Is it just raw talent?
You know, I think it's a good question to think about, especially when looking at her early life. I mean, she grew up in New York City.
Oh, wow.
Surrounded by so many different styles of music, soul, hip-hop, even R&B.
Yeah, what a melting pot.
It must have been so inspiring for her, you know?
Totally. Just being in that environment. It's
Right. And it's not even just the genres themselves, but like the energy of the city itself. It's so driven and ambitious. Do you think that maybe that had an effect on her too?
It makes sense. But then you add in her classical music training,
Oh, right.
which she started at just 7 years old.
Wow, that's young.
And some sources even say that her teacher actually ran out of things to teach her by 14.
No way. That's incredible.
I know, right? Imagine
Imagine.
being that good at something at 14.
She must have been so driven even back then. Do you think that drive might have pushed her to, you know, make tough choices later on?
It makes you wonder, yeah, like when she left Columbia Records.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That was a pretty big deal, especially
Yeah.
since they signed her when she was 15.
I mean, that must have felt like a dream come true at the time.
You would think so, right?
I mean, they even offered her a $26,000 white baby grand piano just to sign.
Really?
Was that tempting for her, or was she already focused on having creative control?
Well, Alicia Keys has always seemed to have a clear artistic vision for herself, and I think Columbia wanted to, you know, sort of mold her into their image.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
But she clearly wasn't going for that. It takes a lot of guts, you know?
I know. Especially at 15.
Right. Walking away from a deal like that.
Makes you wonder if she had a backup plan, you know?
It does, yeah. Like, who was supporting her through all that? But
Yeah.
I guess the good thing is she didn't just disappear.
No.
The only thing she actually recorded with them was, I think,
Yeah.
Da-Dee-Da, Sexy Thing, for Men in Black.
Oh, yeah. I remember that song.
So that's like the only trace of that whole era left.
Yeah, it
And
is.
yeah, and then eventually she just walked away.
It would have been easy to just, you know, go with the flow and let them control her image.
Right.
But it's like she said, no,
Yeah.
this is my music.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it my way. And speaking of doing it her way, that kind of brings us to when she met Clive Davis.
Right. Now we're talking about...
This wasn't just any random music exec.
I know.
We're talking about the guy who launched Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin.
Oh my gosh, yes. He's like music royalty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think he just had a way
Yeah.
of spotting talent, not only spotting it, but understanding it.
That's so important.
He knew she needed creative control,
Yeah.
and he was starting a new label.
Oh, right. J Records.
And he gave her a chance to just be herself.
Yeah. That was huge for her, I bet.
It was a major moment for her.
Absolutely.
But get this, she almost went by a different name.
What? No way.
I know, she almost debuted as Wild.
Wild.
Wild. Can you imagine that? Alicia Wild.
It doesn't have the same ring to it.
Not at all. It was her manager who actually suggested Keys.
Wow. That's a good save.
I know, right? It's wild how these little details can
Yeah.
change everything.
You never know what small thing can just
Yeah.
change the course of someone's life.
Now, Clive Davis, he didn't just throw her into the spotlight. He was very strategic about it. He had her performing in different settings, you know,
Right.
building buzz organically.
Smart.
And then, of course, there was the Oprah performance.
Oh, yes. I remember that.
That was the game changer. Fallen shot straight to #1
Such a good song. for
on
her.
the Billboard Hot 100, and suddenly everyone knew who she was.
I bet that was an incredible feeling for her.
And that performance really set the stage for songs in A minor.
Oh, for sure. That album was huge.
And incredible success.
Right.
But it wasn't just a commercial success. It also got amazing reviews. It was 2001.
Right.
And everyone was listening to bubblegum pop and, you know, the teen idols.
Yeah.
And then here comes Alicia Keys.
Yeah, she was different.
Blending classical piano with R&B, with soul, with jazz.
And it just worked.
I know, it was so fresh and authentic. She took a risk.
Yeah.
And it paid off big time.
For sure. It debuted at #1.
On the Billboard 200. Sold over 12 million copies.
Wow.
Worldwide. But on top of all that, it won her 5 Grammy Awards.
That's incredible.
It was huge. I think she actually tied Lauryn Hill's record
Did she really?
for most wins by a female solo artist
That's amazing.
in a single year.
Wow.
I think people really started to pay attention after that.
Absolutely.
Here she was, this young, talented artist,
Yeah.
taking control of her own music and her own story.
I think that's what resonated with people. You know, it wasn't just a lucky break. It was all her. It was talent and hard work.
It really was.
And just that commitment to her vision.
And remember, she wasn't even 21 yet.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Crazy, right? It makes me wonder when she realized she had made it.
Good question.
Was it Oprah? Was it the Grammys? Or something else?
That must be an incredible feeling, though, to see your hard work
Really?
pay off like that. It makes me wonder how all that early success shaped her career later on.
Oh, yeah.
Did it make her more confident? Did it add more pressure?
I guess that's a question we can explore
Yeah.
as we move on to her next chapter.
For sure. It's easy to sort of get lost in all that, that initial success.
Yeah.
But she didn't just become a one-hit wonder, right?
No, definitely not.
And that brings us to her second album, The Diary of Alicia Keys.
Oh, man. I remember that album.
Yeah.
It just felt like she was digging even deeper,
Yeah.
you know, both in the music and the lyrics. There was this, like, rawness and vulnerability.
I agree.
It was so relatable.
You could really feel her growth.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yep. Like, between that album and her first, she just grew so much.
It's amazing, isn't it, how some artists
Yeah.
just, you know, they put out one great album
Right.
and then that's kind of it, you know?
They just ride that wave.
Yeah, but she didn't. She
Yeah.
kept pushing forward. And
Right.
Diary, it had this like introspective quality to it, almost like confessional. It was still totally her, you know, with the piano and the soulful vocals.
Right, right.
But there was this maturity and depth.
I think you're right.
It wasn't just about catchy hooks anymore.
Yeah.
It felt like more personal.
Definitely.
Like she was sharing her experiences, her emotions in a really genuine way.
Yeah, it was real.
And of course, the critics loved it.
Oh, yeah.
Debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200.
Just like songs in A minor.
Right. Not easy to do, especially when you've set the bar so high.
Exactly.
And she sold over 8 million copies.
Globally.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And she got 4 more Grammys.
Stop it.
I know, right? At that point, she was like a powerhouse.
Oh, really?
It wasn't a fluke or anything. She was consistently putting out good music that people loved.
It's true. And then came As I Am in 2007.
Ooh, yeah.
That album blew me away. She was experimenting with different sounds and textures. You know, it felt like she was embracing all these influences.
Interesting. Like what kind of stuff?
You could hear funk,
Yeah.
rock, even a little blues.
Wow, that's a range.
But it still felt so cohesive.
Yeah.
It was like all these different parts, but they were all coming from this place of genuine creativity.
Exactly. She wasn't just following trends. She was pushing herself.
Which is what great artists do.
Absolutely. I think one of my favorites
So tell me.
from that album is No One.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's got the classic piano, but it also has that driving beat, and the message is so powerful.
It's our resilience, right?
Yeah. And it just makes you want to move.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
That song was #1 for 5 weeks, I think.
It was. That's amazing.
It was huge. It really cemented her as a global superstar.
At that point, it was pretty clear that she could do it all.
It's true. She started acting around this time too, right?
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, like in Smoking Aces and the Nanny Diaries.
I remember being surprised to see her in those.
Me too. But you know what? She held her own.
She did, yeah. It just shows you how she's not afraid to take risks.
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
To step outside of her comfort zone.
Totally. Being a successful musician is one thing,
Right.
but to branch out into acting,
Yeah,
it takes guts.
it really does.
It shows that she trusts her instincts.
Yeah.
And she's not afraid to try new things.
And through it all, she never lost sight of, you know, her values,
Right.
her philanthropy, her activism. It's really inspiring.
It is. She co-founded Keep a Child Alive, which fights HIV and AIDS.
Yeah.
And she's a huge advocate for all sorts of social justice causes.
It's one thing for celebrities to just talk about these things.
Oh, totally.
But she actually puts in the work.
She does. She's not just lending her name.
No.
She's actively involved,
Right.
using her platform to make a real difference.
It's clear that it's not just about fame or fortune for her.
No, definitely not.
She wants to give back to make the world better.
Yeah, she seems like someone who genuinely cares.
Yeah.
And I think that makes her relatable, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, she's obviously talented
Oh, yeah.
and successful, but she's also human, and she shows that side of herself.
Yeah, which is refreshing.
Right.
In a world that can feel so fake.
It can, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, her next album, The Element of Freedom, it came out in 2009,
Oh, yeah.
and it kind of marked a turning point in her career, wouldn't you say?
I think so. It had a different vibe.
I do.
More introspective. Maybe it was less commercial.
Mm-hmm.
More focused on personal themes, I think.
Like she was shedding a layer, you know?
Yeah, maybe.
Letting go of some of that pop sensibility
I get that.
and embracing a sound that was more mature, more reflective.
And that's what connects with people, right?
Absolutely. It's not just about the music.
It's about the journey.
Yeah.
The growth, the vulnerability.
For sure. And
Yeah.
sometimes that journey can be tough, right?
Right.
I mean, in 2008, she had that record-breaking streak on the Billboard charts.
But then her next few singles didn't do as well.
It happens, right?
Yeah, it makes you wonder how she handled that.
That's a good point.
It just shows that even the biggest stars face challenges. It's
Yeah.
not always about hitting number one, you know?
No, it's not.
It's about staying true to your vision and continuing to evolve.
And that's something Alicia Keys has definitely done.
She has. Her career has been all about evolution from those early days,
Yeah.
blending classical and R&B to exploring all these different genres and collaborating with so many artists.
You know, it's interesting to think about how artists adapt to all the changes in the music industry.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everything is so different now.
It is, even compared to like 10 years ago.
Exactly. Streaming is everywhere. Social media plays such a big role.
Right.
Artists have to be so much more,
Yeah.
you know, savvy about how they connect with their audience.
I think Alicia Keys has done a good job with that, though.
Yeah, I think so.
I do, yeah. She's super active online,
Yeah, it's true.
connecting with fans directly.
And she's embraced streaming.
Oh, absolutely.
Her music is everywhere.
But I think what's important is she's still stayed true to her values, you know?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Like she hasn't changed her sound just to chase trends or
Right.
whatever's popular.
Which is probably why she's still got so much respect
Exactly.
from both fans and critics.
It's a hard balance to strike, but
Yeah.
she seems to have figured it out.
And she's still evolving, too.
Oh, definitely.
Her more recent albums, like Girl on Fire or even Alicia,
Yeah,
they explore different themes like womanhood,
right.
empowerment, self-acceptance.
She's really come into her own.
You can really hear it in her voice.
That confidence, yeah.
She's not holding back anymore.
And she's not afraid to speak out about important issues.
Exactly, like gender equality, social justice, all of that.
It's inspiring to see her using her platform like that.
It is. And she seems to have found this balance
Right.
between her career, her family, her activism.
I think it says a lot about her strength.
Yeah.
She's not afraid to set boundaries, you know?
Yeah, she's talked about the challenges of
Right.
being a working mom.
It's not easy, especially in that industry.
But it's real, and people connect with that.
Absolutely.
It reminds us that even celebrities are just
Right.
people, you know?
They have their own struggles, just like everyone else.
It makes you appreciate her even more.
It does, yeah. And I think it's important to remember
What's the...
just how talented she is.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, 15 Grammy Awards.
That's wild. Which win do you think meant the most to her?
Oh, that's tough to say.
I know, it's just a thought.
But I imagine those first ones.
For songs in A minor,
Yeah, they must have been so special.
especially after that whole thing with Columbia,
Exactly. It showed that she could do it her way.
and still be successful.
Yep. And it set the stage for everything that came after.
It's amazing to look back on her career
It is.
and see the impact she's had.
On music, on culture.
She's inspired so many artists.
Yeah, and she's still pushing boundaries.
It's true.
You know what I find really fascinating?
Tell me.
It's how she's maintained her artistic integrity through all of it.
Yeah.
She's never been afraid to experiment,
Right.
to collaborate, to speak her mind.
Yeah.
She could have just become a pop music machine.
Easy money.
Right. Churning out hits, playing it safe.
Yeah.
But she didn't. She challenged herself.
She took risks,
And she stayed true to herself.
and that's why she's still here.
And that's why people love her.
I think that's a great point to end on.
Yeah.
You know, she's more than just a musician. She's an icon,
Definitely.
a role model, a force for good.
And her story's not over yet.
Exactly. It makes you wonder what she'll do next,
What boundaries she'll break.
what stories she'll tell.
I can't wait to see it.
Me neither. And to our listeners out there, I hope this deep dive has inspired you to explore her music, her story. It's a reminder that you can achieve great things
Right.
while staying true to yourself
Absolutely.
and using your voice to make a difference.
Yeah.
Backstories Podcast.